Contracts. So what? Contract. So what? You all study contracts in business law or BUS law, you call it. What's the big deal of a contract? What's so important about a contract? Who cares? Yes, you all studied in business law. Contract is made up of an offer, an acceptance, maybe something else besides that. Okay, these are the things that made up a contract. Made up a contract. Contract has been formed. And then, what's the big deal? Because if it's not a big deal, if it's not important, why bother about offer, acceptance? Okay, maybe something else, maybe not something else, and the contract is formed. Contract is born. And then what? Contract formed? So what? Contract not formed? So what? I mean, the world remains the same, isn't it? Whether you have a contract being formed or not. What is so important of a contract? When you have a contract, what is the big deal that has been created? And compare with if you don't have a contract. So what? What difference would it make to having or not having a contract? Think about it and tell me why. Why even bother to have one, a contract? You all studied contracts in BUS law. Right? There's offer, there's acceptance, there's this, there's that. And then what? You already, okay, you have a contract. And then, so? How would the world change as a result of a contract being made? How would your situation, as in business, any kind of business you're doing, so you could be selling something or selling some services, or you could be buying something, or you could be buying some services, or any kind of business transaction. How would a contract create some sort of a major difference to that? If not, why bother? Why bother? I mean, it's just it's topic in the BUS law, and then what? So what? What's so important to your life on that? What is so important to your life in having a contract? Think about it. Otherwise, it's just one meaningless topic in BUS law, so that you get a pass in one of your core subjects, and then that's it. Okay, as some of you may have thought about it, if you don't know, don't peek in, don't fast forward this video. Think about it. If not, you're not going to learn anything. There's no point for me to tell you now when you don't think about it, because if I tell you, it's not going to go into your head. Thinking about it, then I tell you, it goes into your head. The most important thing a contract creates, as comparing with no contract at all, in any kind of business situation, have a contract or no, not having a contract, the big deal of having a contract is it creates, when a contract is born, when a contract is formed, right? Maybe with offer, with acceptance, and something else. We'll talk about the formation of contract later on. What is required for the contract to be formed, to be born, all right? But before we talk about this thing being born, what's the big deal if it gets born? Right? What's the big deal if a contract is formed? Well, This is the main reason, right? Why there is such a big deal to have a contract as compared with not having one. This is the big difference between having a contract and what difference would it make to your life as compared to not having one. Binding effect. What exactly does binding effect means? In Thai they call ความผูกพัน ตามสัญญา As a result of the contract being born or formed, alright, through some steps. The contract gets formed, the contract gets born. The moment the contract gets born, there is binding effect. ความผูกพัน ตามสัญญา I just write the keyword here, binding effect. I don't write the full thing. You have to fill up the rest of the information from your understanding after this lecture. It creates a binding effect among the contractual parties. A contract would at least have two parties. Alright? The contract being born results in binding effect between the two parties. What exactly does the binding effect mean? It means this. It creates on one party a right, and it creates at the same time, it creates a duty or an obligation on the other party to perform some action. So for example, use the most common example. This is just an example, right? An example. A sale contract, right? In a sale contract, the seller has the right, seller ผู้ขาย has the right to request for the purchaser to pay the purchase price. The purchaser has the duty to pay the purchase price. So one person's right creates on another person a duty. On the flip side, the purchaser has the right to request for the seller to deliver the things bought. The seller has the duty or the obligation to deliver the things bought. Okay, this is the binding effect between the two parties. One person's rights created from the contract results in, at the same time, simultaneously, a duty or an obligation on the other party to perform. Otherwise, who cares about having a contract? Who cares about offer and acceptance? So what? This is the so what. Contracts creates rights on one party. At the same time, this right would create a duty or an obligation on the other party to perform. This right for the seller to request for payment from the purchaser would not have arisen if a contract hasn't been born, hasn't been formed. The seller would not have the right to request for payment. Right? And the purchaser would not have this duty or obligation to pay if the contract hasn't been formed. The purchaser would have no right to request for the seller to say, deliver the things to me. Right? And the seller would have no duty, no obligation to deliver the things to the purchaser. So this kind of rights and obligation comes about as a result of the contract. This kind of rights and obligation arising from the formation or the contract being born creates the binding effect, the Quan Pu Pan, between the two parties to the contract. Right? Otherwise, who cares? Alright? Now, since this is so important in a contract, because in business, this needs to be created. Binding effect, rights and obligation or duty needs to be created. Because you cannot do business based on the word trust me, believe me, I will sell this to you. Trust me, believe me, I will bring the money to pay you tomorrow. I will transfer to you the money tomorrow. Trust me. Right? You can't do business based on simply somebody saying, trust me. เชื่อผมเถอะ or believe me. It's not enough. There must be some sort of a legal duty created and a right created at the same time. And this comes about from a contract. Alright? And this is the so what. Okay, I want you guys to see clearly, alright, how, or should I say, what difference contract made in the real world. It's not just offer and acceptance. It's just say if you study offer and acceptance and whatever other requirements it is, we're coming to that soon. All right, it all sounds very abstract. All right, the contract is born, the contract is formed as a result of 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 happens, contract is formed, and then is the two parties to the contract has this. One person has the right, the other person has at the same time a duty to perform. To sell or to buy or whatever the contract is. Alright, I just use sell and buy as an example, okay, because buying and selling is the most common situation you guys face. So I find an example that you can relate to, a sale contract. But it applies to every kind of contract. Lease contract, right? The apartments that you guys are leasing, right? You lease the apartment, okay? The owner of the apartment has the duty or the obligation to lease to you, right? You have the right to lease or to use the apartment, right? The owner of the apartment has the right to request from you to pay rent. You have the duty or the obligation to pay the rent, right? Saying that I will come to chow, I will come to lease is not enough. Okay, and to give you a greater perspective of this in real life, in the business world, there are always better offers provided. Say for example, if I say I sell you my car at 400,000 baht, you say okay, I buy. Yeah, I say that to you now. But who is to say that tomorrow, right, somebody would offer to buy my car from me, not at 400,000 baht, but 600,000 baht. Somebody may say to me, David, how much is selling your car? Right? Oh, I have already sold it to someone else, 400,000 baht. I give you 600,000 baht. Sell it to me instead. You see, what is to stop me selling for 600,000 baht? Even though I have already agreed with you to sell you 400,000 baht. Nothing to stop me. The only thing that can stop me is this. A contract. A binding effect with you. I have a duty, an obligation to sell you the car. You have the right to request for the sale of the car to you at 400,000 baht. And if I sell it to somebody else who offered me 600,000 baht, which is a better offer because I get another 200,000 baht, what will happen if I sell it to this other person and get more by get another 200,000 baht extra? Yes, as a result of the binding effect of the contract, you can claim, you can sue me in court or you can claim against me in court for breach of contract. Right here. Breached of contract. Pizania. Because I sell it to somebody else at a better price. Right? And at the same time, who is to say that tomorrow or next week you can buy the same car, same model from somebody else at cheaper price? Right? Lesser than 400,000 baht, 300,000 baht, maybe 280,000 baht. What is to stop you to buy from somebody else at a cheaper price? You see, in business, there are always better offers. Saying to each other, trust you, I'm your good friend, I'm your relative, I'm your this, I'm your that. Believe me, trust me. You can't do business based on trust. You cannot do business based on trust. A contract creates this kind of a binding effect on the parties to the contract to make sure that they follow, they are buying to what is agreed in the contract and not change their minds, because there are always better offers coming. Alright? Better price, better product. Always. Alright? Alright. Now that you know the importance of a contract, okay, then I will jump to the next part. And this part, I think you know most of it, so I'll go quickly, which is, how does the contract come into life? How does a contract get born? Right? How is a contract born? How is a contract formed? Okay, this is going to be in the next page of the slide. But think about it. I know you studied this in BAS Law, so think about it. Alright, offer and acceptance. Must the offer and acceptance be in writing? Or can it be just speaking? And if you have it in just speaking, how are you going to be able to prove it? Right? Or can the offer and acceptance not be in speaking or writing, but some action, just some action. Alright, like I say to you, do you want to sell me your coffee? Right? Would you like to sell me your coffee? You don't say anything. You don't write anything. You just make the coffee and give it to me, and I pay you. Only actions between us. Is that enough for offer and acceptance? Right? So, the question for the next part is, how? The keyword is here. How exactly is the contract formed? Okay, because if the contract is not formed, then there is no binding effect. If there's no binding effect, there's no right, there's no duty, there's no obligation. And you're putting yourself in a risky position, because there are always better offers in business. Sometimes in life too. Right? So, how is a contract formed or contract born? You study offer and acceptance in BAS Law. How should offer and acceptance come? Should it always be in writing? Can silence be considered as contract as well? Can silence be considered as acceptance of a contract? Alright. Okay. We'll continue in the next part.